Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. I am missing my wingman, Todd Booksman, today. He is off enjoying his birthday. So wish Todd a big birthday for everyone listening to this recording. Deborah Bird, I'm hopeful, will join me, or I might just be going solo moderator, interviewer of Kristin Messerli. What's up, Kristin?
Hi, great to be
Good
here.
to have you. Yeah, it's good to have you. So guys, this call is all about a winning customer experience, and how do you score a winning customer experience, and how do you win? Now the main data point we're using in this call to share best practices, takeaways, the only criteria is experience.com customer satisfaction scores. So we're going to talk about what are the best practices, what can we learn from the loan officers in America and from the lenders in America that have the best customer satisfaction scores. So a couple things we're not going to be reporting in this, exactly how many of them are mortgage coaches, although we know every time this has ever been done, a number of the, high number, over 20% of the loan officers with the highest customer satisfaction scores use mortgage coach. So they're delivering a better point of sale, advice-based experience to consumers. We don't have loan volume connected to this. So, exactly how many loans did they close? What was their production? We're sharing best practices solely on, but it's a result. It's a tangible result of reviews. And so, Kristin, for anyone who doesn't, they're new to the community or they're new to the industry and they don't know who you are, would you mind just giving us a couple minutes on who are you and why is what you're going to share with us important?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have been working in the industry for the last 10 years. I do a lot of speaking and research on reaching primarily the next gen home buyer. So I did a couple of reports, the 2020 and 2021 next gen home buyer report, and we'll share some of I've been very focused on what the customer experience looks like from their perspective. And what's been really cool is at experience.com, we're formerly known as Social Survey. We're totally focused on amplifying the voice of the customer. So we automate the process of collecting reviews and collecting feedback at multiple touch points along the customer journey. And through this award, we do the top performer award every year. And this is my first year. Last year we skipped it. There were some pandemic and migration challenges. And so this is my first year with experience.com to be a part of the awards. And it's been really cool because I've interviewed our top 10 or most of our top 10 loan officers that have been winners of the top performer award and the top company performer award as well. And so just hearing that perspective on what is consistent across what has worked for them to build a great customer experience and made them top performers, and how similar that actually is with what the borrowers have been saying as well.
Cool. So walk us through really defining this annual thing that you do at experience.com so everybody knows the methods of what you're doing here and what you're sharing, and then let's get into the takeaways you have and the strategies you want to share. And remember, guys, this is a mastermind format, so if you do have questions, I will be paying attention to both comments in Zoom, comments in Facebook, and if you're watching the recording of this, we will be tracking any comments you put in YouTube. So let us know what questions, comments you have.
Perfect. So our results are based on the survey completion rates, number of reviews, and overall star ratings that have been submitted to experience.com by verified customers. So we're connected to the company's LOS, and our requests are sent automatically to the borrower and co-borrower on all closed loan transactions, which is how we get the verified customers. And then our results are evaluated. Everyone in the top 1% of participating loan officers are considered a top performer. And we have now over 40,000 loan officers on the platform and over 350 companies that were looked at through this evaluation process.
So 40,000 loan officers. I mean, that is a lot of loan officers, guys. So we have a lot of data to pull from, and over 300 lenders. So this is a big sampling size that from a customer satisfaction standpoint, I think we can pull real conclusions. I mean, this is statistically valid sample size to say, hey, what can we learn from this? So guys, let's tune in, don't multitask. Let's have Kristin share what they've learned. And also I'm looking forward to who won. I mean, I've seen some of that because I've seen a number of mortgage coaches share on social media that they, where they are in the top 1%, they were in these categories. So I'll let you roll. Like, do you want to share who won?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us takeaways?
Yeah, so I put together a few slides actually that I can share. And here we go. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see this? My slide deck? All right, yeah. Cool. Okay, so yeah, I put together what seemed to be consistent across all of our winners. And I actually paired it with some of the data that I pulled from the Next Gen Homebuyers, which I surveyed over 3,000 next gen home buyers who are either about to buy a home or just recently bought. So that is also definitely statistically sound and significant. So
Kristin, real quick, is that something that anyone who hasn't read that or seen that, is there a place they could go to get that?
Yes, you can go to my personal website. There's multiple places you go, but KristinMesserli.com. And I can put that in the chat.
No, if you go, we'll put it in chat.
Okay. Okay, cool. KristinMesserli.com. If you click on the research tab, you can see all of the slide decks, the full reports, all of that information is available there.
So real quick, guys, this is like a gold mine of content to one, make you smarter, and two, slides that you can use with presentations, whether you're doing lunch and learns with realtors, whether you're doing home buyer webinars or in-person seminars. Guys, there's just pure gold at KristinMesserli.com. Check it out.
Great. And always happy to answer questions about that. I'm also in the process of putting together some new research for the year and would love to hear from anyone. I think when I first put this together, I asked for everyone's feedback on what kinds of questions they would like to get answered from today's borrowers. So feel free to reach out or drop those in chat as well.
Hey, Kristin, you know what might be fun someday? I'm just going down a rabbit trail.
Yeah,
is to have you do a next gen buyer voice a customer call on this Friday webinar. So would that be asking too much? Could you put some next gen buyers on a call and we'll between you interviewing them and the mortgage coach community interviewing them, like, could you put something like that together for us?
It's so funny. You and Alex have quite the brain, because I did this with Alex recently from Sales Boomerang. Yeah. And it was so cool. And we definitely wanted to do more of them, but we had talked about doing a series where it's like people who have thought about buying a home but are very far from actually doing it, and then people who are in the process and people who recently bought. But yeah, it really isn't difficult. I mean, I have lots of friends in that space and I talk to lots of people all the time about it. So, but it's really, I think, as much as I love to pull in statistically significant data and share, like, here's what everyone is saying, it's cool to hear directly from the voice of the customer.
So let's plan on doing another call where, one, you share some, call it takeaways of the next gen buyer, and two, you have some next gen buyers and you're walking them through an experience and our community has a chance to learn from that and ask questions. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Love to do it.
All right.
Cool.
All right, let's roll.
All right. Okay, so I'll share our top company winners. These were small through jumbo. So our jumbo winner was Finance of America. I did a really amazing and inspiring interview that Dave, you would love, and everyone on this call would absolutely love, with Mike Farr, their head of retail. And he talked about it. It like gave me chills hearing him talk about the way that they build customer experience into every aspect of the way that they think about the power of customer experience. And he talks about, helping people as an advisor beyond the transaction. So I think I've got a quote in here from him, but we'll be dropping that interview today or early next week on our social media platforms. And that's one I would love to have, the mortgage coach community watch as well, because I think it fits so well with your mission and talking about helping people leverage their debt and assets beyond just the transaction. So that was cool.
So by the way, call out 100% of these 4 companies are mortgage coach enterprise partners, and just saying.
I love that.
You want to get the highest possible customer satisfaction score. Roll it out from the top down, and of course, loan officers. It doesn't help if you don't use it. So hundreds of companies have mortgage coach, but if the loan officers aren't adopting it, you're not leveraging it. One, it's not going to improve your customers. That, and 2, it's not going to help your company. So get after it. Anyways, keep it rolling. But I did like that.
Yeah, love that they're all customers. So Large went to Envoy, also have an interview with them that we will be sharing, and Medium Summit Mortgage and Small Zenith Home Loans. And from Zenith, we also had our #1 loan officer by far, Giuseppe Battaglioli, who won by landslide as a top performer. So this was again over 40,000 loan officers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, guys, time out. Think about that. #1 out of 40,000. Like Giuseppe, first of all, if you're listening to this, boom. And guys, Giuseppe is a mortgage coach grandmaster. Every family he serves, get a TCA. So love seeing that.
Oh, yeah. Love to hear that. So I have, like I said, I put together some of the kind of top insights that I heard from the loan officer. So I'll go through these and share some of the quotes. But they started with what I think is a big mortgage coach value here, which is guidance. And I don't think is my slide
by the way,
for
Kristin, you're there we go. It moved.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so from our research, 1 in 4 next-gen home buyers said their biggest challenge while buying a home was a lack of understanding. That was education by far was a big gap when it came to hearing from our consumers and the respondents. But 1 in 5 said that they weren't confident in any step of the home buying process. So this just seemed to be a really big gap, like I said, and something that a lot of the loan officers, or all of them across the board, said something around being a guide through the process. This is a quote from Patrick that said, showing them that you're going to work through the process with them to deliver the answers that they need, and that they're not doing it by themselves. So I thought that was a really good insight and a great quote from Patrick, one of our top 5, who, from a consumer standpoint, when I even interviewed a lot of next-gen home buyers, they all talk about just this feeling of being overwhelmed when they start going through the process. I certainly felt this when I started going through the process last year. And it's just a feeling of like, I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong decision. And something that I would have been talking about or thinking about a lot more recently is just the context through which next-gen home buyers are coming into making a purchase. And for us, we've been through, in adulthood, we've had instant access to information at all times. We've been able to quickly access that information and access responses for any kind of silly purchase. You order a pizza and when the pepperoni is placed on that pizza, everything. And then you go to make the biggest purchase of your life. And if you don't feel that you are confident in that process, or you don't feel you have information that's clear and transparent for you, then you can feel very lost. And a lot of people back out of the process at that point, or they just feel like they're not having a great customer experience overall. So I thought that first one was a good one that aligned also with the mortgage coach community. So the second one is, and my slides are being weird, communication. So this was interesting because when it came out of our next-gen homebuyer report that only half of the next-gen homebuyers said they had a great experience with their loan officer. And we asked them why, what would have made it better. And all of them are like by far the number one response was responsiveness. And so they said that that would have made their experience improved. And responsiveness was also what all of the interviews with the top performers said was part of their customer experience and part of what made them a top performer. And that was the like one thing for the most part, that was absolutely consistent that I would hear every time towards the beginning of a call with the top performer was, yeah, we were responsive, always answer my phone, and that's just, even if they are not personally the ones doing it, they have someone on their team that's manning the phone to be able to cover the weekends or even, later in the evening. And communication just really helps put people at ease. Any thoughts on that, Dave?
I mean, the one thing I would say at this point, I think what was just shared is a concept that we know, like we know responsiveness and communication is the center to everything. So I would just, to make this something you can make actionable for yourself, is I think when you get takeaways from something like this, to one, audit yourself, like how are you doing from a customer satisfaction, and how do you rank against the people that you're hearing from? And then honestly and candidly rate yourself. Where are you at in these key concepts? So it's not like you could easily listen to this and go, I've heard that, I know that, yep, got it, roger that. But I'm going to push everybody who's listening to this to listen to this, to write down the key concepts that Kristin had, and then literally, by Monday, whether it's later today, whether it is Monday, whether it's weekend work, audit where you're at, where you can improve. And in a lot of cases, it's like, oh, I'm doing that on 50%, but I'm not doing that on all my people. So, rate where you're at, and don't just score how you're rating when you're at your best. I want you to really score, how are you rating in all of these categories for every single consumer? And then come up, get with your team, or if you don't have a team, figure it out yourself, but use this as an opportunity to get better. Like markets, like the one we're in today, where interest rates have gone up 2%. This is a market where you get better, where you get market share, where you improve your competitive advantage. And I'm telling you right now, if you are a mortgage professional that has some of the highest customer satisfaction scores in the industry, you've got a hell of a competitive advantage. You're going to get more leads. You're going to close more deals. You're going to have more conversion. You're going to get more referrals. You're going to have a healthier, more successful mortgage practice. So those are my thoughts, Kristin.
Yeah, that's good. I had to go put my dog away, so I was glad you had some thoughts. One of the things that I was kind of surprised by, I guess, was when I was interviewing everyone, I was expecting some big, like, oh, this is the, interesting, crazy thing we do with our customer experience. It makes us a top performer, 1% and 40,000 loan officers. And it was kind of, sometimes I felt like, sometimes I was always inspired, but I was like, well, this is kind of a boring takeaway. Yeah, we know, answer your phone. I don't know. But it is interesting. I've been doing the sales rallies for American Pacific. And so I've been in front of, physically in front of a lot of loan officers lately, and asking them also about these kinds of things and telling them some of these insights. And a lot of people talk about how it's just while it seems very simple, it is a difficult thing to manage all the time. And the context through which I'm speaking with APM is about talking about how we kind of our background with purchasing, our history or our psychology around making purchasing decisions. And when it came to responsiveness, it's kind of interesting to think about, like I said, where we have become accustomed to this instant access to information or instant access to being able to chat with someone for any of these silly purchases. And then this huge one happens, and our natural inclination is to feel really anxious if we don't get a response right away. And I think just understanding that, even though like we're not logically thinking this is something that is, needs to, I don't know, I expect a human being to answer their phone all the time at all hours of the day. No, but because I'm so accustomed to this kind of access through Amazon and all the other places I buy things, my natural reaction is just to feel anxiety. And so that's where I think it's helpful to understand where that's coming from for specifically for this type of digital native consumer. And then, being as responsive as possible, building that into your team. I think that's a great way to, invest resources, is just in having your phone manned so that you can really be as responsive as possible. And then you're able to set expectations around, here's how and when I can respond to these kinds of bigger things. And I think the way that you respond as well is important to mention. So, and these are basic things, but just texting to get to a phone call sometimes, or using video as a follow-up. And I always encourage using video and TCAs, but communication that encourages personalization, encourages humanization, that changes the game. I mean, I always talk about how when you look at someone in the eyes, you are bonding with them. Like our bodies naturally release oxytocin, which bonds us to that person. And if trust is a huge factor in generating more business, then you want to build the bond as much as possible. And so one of the things that I've heard a lot of times from loan officers and from just in customer experience is that using video in your communication, whether or not your consumer is on video, that can really help to improve that as well and build that connection.
So the thing I want to add there is answer the phone, but respond to however the consumer connects with you. If they text you, change the words to this, respond to the text, and confirm, just that little confirmation. There are some people where you send the text and they just assume that that they got it. And there are loan officers that do that. Oh, like we close the loop on that. No, close the loop on all forms of communication. And then remind folks, I do want to remind everybody that, adding a video in the total cost analysis is a massive time saver, and it's a massive conversion amplifier, when it comes to getting conversion. And so what does that mean? If it's doing those two things, it's saving you time, it's improving your conversion, you know what it means? It means it's making the person feel happier. It means it's making the person feel like they can trust you more. It means that it's helping you get more referrals. So, and I also want to remind people around text video, just going, to text and pulling up the phone and responding with a 10-second, 30-second, no more than a 1-minute video response to something. There's a time. Now, there's some people that they don't want that video. They just rather have the text or a voice. So you need to anticipate the consumer and how they want to communicate. But just using one medium, I want to caution everybody. We're in a multi-channel, omni-channel world, and it's up to us to anticipate and understand how that consumer wants to be communicated with. And we need to use all channels to win in today's world.
Yeah, definitely. I had an experience recently that made me kind of realize the impact. I was evaluating someone as a wealth advisor, and I was going through the process with a company called Personal Capital. And the guy was presenting, and I didn't realize, but I was kind of doing some other stuff on the side and not really paying attention. And then he turned on his video in the middle of the presentation. He was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realize my video wasn't on." And I wasn't on video, but I completely turned over and paid close attention to his presentation the rest of the time. And it just made me realize how much I think just him being on video made me maybe subconsciously or whatever, realize this is a human being here, and this is something I want to pay attention to. So I think that, anyway, just to further emphasize that point. So the third consistent thing that came up across our top performers was talking about advice. So you can see why I think our top performers and experience are going to align a lot with Mortgage Coach users as well. But 2 in 3 next-gen home buyers said that they did not think lenders were trustworthy or reliable. And that was just so shocking. And it wasn't shocking to me. It was shocking to me that many people in the market felt that way. These are people that already bought a home or were about to buy a home, and they had this much distrust. I personally, I think that there's just so much distrust in the market in general, and we can talk more about that. But when it came to advice, I mean, this is a quote from Mike at Finance America that I just loved. He said that we measure our success not just by the volume, but by the financial health and success of our customers. And I think, when you add in the component of the advice factor, you surpass all of the skepticism. And I certainly felt that way. And I think for so many of us, we approach the purchasing process with a lot of anxiety, a lot of extra emotion around buying a home and making such a huge financial investment. And then we also entered adulthood during or right after the financial crisis. And there's just layers and layers of distrust or reasons why there's skepticism or anxiety coming into it. And when you can surpass or bypass, I guess, your emotional side of the brain and go into the logical side through advice, you're able to build trust in a way that builds loyalty and referrals. And I think, I've talked on this before about my experience with the TCA and a rent versus own, but those allowed me to say, okay, like the rent versus own, for example, I was just really skeptical that this was not a good idea for me to buy a home in LA. And I had talked to tons of people, have worked in the industry for a decade. It didn't feel like it was the right thing. And then I got a rent versus own and was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is logical. This does make sense. And I can see for myself over time why this makes sense. But I think considering beyond the transaction that you're someone who is helping not only the consumer, but the borrower's family and friends be able to build their plan for wealth through homeownership, that's where you're gonna get the greatest advocates and referral partners from us as your consumers by building that into your customer experience.
And I want to say something here that consumers just don't know what they don't know. Like Kristin, a rent versus own TCA, she had all these thoughts, she had these assumptions, she'd have one-off conversations with different people and they would come back, but she didn't have clarity. And then when you put it in writing and you put it in numbers and people get clarity, they become empowered. And when people become empowered, they trust you. And when people become clear, they trust you. So it's until you have delivered that tangible advice experience to a consumer, I would make the claim that you've not optimized how loud they are. You have not optimized how much they're going to trust you. You have not optimized their financial well-being because they're not necessarily going to make the right decisions. Consumers only know so much about the process, and usually whatever they think the mortgage strategy that they should do, the loan amount, the down payment, the points versus no points, 5-year ARM versus 30-year, these are things that are just loose concepts in their mind. And until you put it in clarity based off of today's market, based off of what they believe rates are going to do, what appreciation is going to be doing, I would just say your job's not done. If you're not doing that, you're being a loan officer. Now, if you deliver the advice experience, you're being a mortgage advisor. And a mortgage advisor is going to have the highest possible customer satisfaction scores. A mortgage advisor is going to have the highest possible conversion. And a mortgage advisor is going to be as profitable as they can possibly be from a price exception standpoint. So just super important takeaway for every loan officer watching this, that you're just losing money, you're losing conversion, and you're not optimizing your customer sat scores if you are not delivering an advice experience.
So good. I loved, you said an empowered borrower is going to trust you, or there's some kind of quote we need to pull from that, but it was about that building trust through empowerment. And I think that is so important. So that's great.
So I get the quote, man. Make sure you don't give yourself credit for it, Kristin. I'm kidding.
Okay. Yeah.
We can share the quote. David, Kristin.
Okay, that sounds good. So I mentioned already that only half of next-gen buyers said they had a great experience with their LO. I think part of this is, people are coming to you. We've talked about this before, but they either as typically they're coming to you as a transaction, like you're a means to the end, and you're going to compete on rate and efficiency. But the other option is to compete on advice and guidance and communication. I think when you set yourself up as someone who is a guide through the process, then you set yourself apart from everyone else. And for so many consumers, we're approaching this with it feeling like a very dark and overwhelming space. There's distrust, there's a feeling of overwhelm. And then when we come to you, and if you are able to empower us and give us clarity and transparency, that changes everything. And we become your best referral partners and advocates. And I feel responsible to make sure that everyone I know and care about is getting the kind of experience I had with a great loan officer. And I thought what was interesting, and the reason loyalty was just kind of like, everyone I talked to said that they get past business from their customers. One of our top 10 said that 80% of his business was from past clients, which I think is fascinating. And I think something we don't hear very often in this business, because we tend to be very focused on the transaction, and understandably, with volume being the way that it has been, but especially with the market shifting, and I think needing to compete more on the customer experience side, this is where we should be focusing a lot, or I think where there's a lot of opportunity is from your past customers. And Dave, I know you guys have something you promote on the annual, what is it? It's like an annual check-in type of thing that you can use this for. Annual review. Yes. I love that concept. I think it's a great way to, generate business from your past customers and remind them that you are an advisor. And for a lot of us, like I had a fantastic experience with a loan officer who gave me the TCA. And I think that I immediately text a bunch of my friends, hey, when you need a loan officer, I've got the perfect one for you, but time goes on and you kind of forget. And it's not that I wouldn't want to be that referral partner to the loan officer either, but staying top of mind in whatever ways you can with that brand as an advisor, I think is really, really helpful.
Yeah, just want to call out, Kramer, another mortgage coach enterprise partner. So far, we're batting almost 100. And remember, guys, there was no collaboration. In fact, I am seeing these slides for the very first time. They were all based off of just, 40,000 loan officers, 300 lenders, who's got the best customer satisfaction score. And it's a mortgage coach, mortgage coach, mortgage coach. So just saying.
That's awesome.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, everybody.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so those are the main things. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, we talk about this as a satisfaction score. So this is measuring one moment, but I want to encourage everyone and everyone I talked to, from the companies to the loan officers, they were really talking about an experience. And while we measure one moment, a customer satisfaction at the end of the loan, we also measure other moments that encompass the experience, which is the journey the customer takes through the life of the loan. And so I think, it's important that we move beyond the how satisfied is a customer at the end of closing, and think more about how satisfied is a customer throughout the experience of working with us. And this is part of why we moved over to the brand experience.com from Social Survey. And why I joined the company was because we still help companies generate reviews and help loan officers generate reviews and all of that. But we also now help them measure other moments along the journey, like mid-process, in the middle of the process, checking in, just saying, hey, do you have any questions? Or, how are you doing? And that improves lead retention and helps the customer feel like, oh yeah, I'm taken care of here, or checking in 6 months post-closing. But setting up those kinds of check-ins, whether they're automated through experience.com or you are doing that within your team, that type of experience is what's going to generate the kind of top performance that we see from our award winners. And then I want to mention or talk about the customer experience through empathy and empowerment, which is something that Dave just brought up. But Dave, did you have something else to say here?
No, I want to hear what you have to say here. And remember, guys, if you have questions, we have Kristin, the VP of Strategy for Experience.com, who also is someone that I do not think there's anyone in the mortgage industry that has directly interviewed more next-gen home buyers than Kristin. She's also put together a report every year. I don't think she did it last year, but would you call it the mobile playbook?
Oh, that one. Yeah, no, I did. I retired that as I focused on the next gen home buyer report. But yeah, what was it? Best mobile apps. Yeah.
And by the way, it's worth going back, even though it's been a few years since she has done that one. The thinking that she put into that was amazing, and the output was incredibly valuable. In fact, just thinking out loud and talking to Kristin, I'm going to go back and review it myself. So you've got someone that's got a pretty unique expertise. So even if it's questions that don't have to do with customer satisfaction, but it has to do with Kristin's expertise, put those in comments and we'll bring them into the conversation. Kristin, someone did ask for the slides. Are these slides something that you're willing to share?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Always.
Okay. If you could just share them in comments of the Facebook group later. It looks like that's a Google Doc or a Google presentation. And if not, just get it to me some way and I'll get it in our community.
Okay, cool. Yep, I'll drop it in.
So,
yeah, that's a good point about the homebuyer apps. I think it's the top homebuyer apps report, but I don't have that one on my personal website, so I will add that one. It has been a little bit though, so it'd be interesting to see how much things have changed. But yeah, so I want to share on this model that
Kristin, another idea is not to necessarily go back and redo that report, but it would be kind of fun to you and I do a call, and maybe we could, well, no, it would be two different calls, but we do a conversation around what is different. You know how we did that?
Yeah.
That, can't remember what we called it, but the
the digital shift.
The article we did, the digital shift.
Yeah.
We did the digital shift age, and we did it in like 2019 or 2018. We did an update. For you and I just to have a conversation like, hey, what's shifted and where is the bullseye in mobile land for home buyers and for financial well-being?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I actually did a lot of research on that report and looked at so many different things to identify the top apps. So it would be interesting to see where that's come over the years. But so in thinking about customer experience and a model that really, or a lens through which to build your customer experience, I think it's important to factor in empathy and empowerment. And I think that is the path to the purchase market. That's the way to win with next gen consumers. We've talked a lot about empathy in terms of, what consumers are feeling and thinking as they go through this process. And we've talked about how important it is to empower the consumer. But it's, because this consumer segment is so distrusting, and you think about, over half of Gen Z are made up of ethnic minorities. You think about how communities of color have experienced distrust, generational trauma of distrust with financial institutions. There's just a huge level of distrust. And the reason I say that is because I built a model that was based off of my social worker years. Before I started cultural outreach 10 years ago, I was a social worker, and I worked primarily with traumatized populations, the homeless, a lot of immigrant communities. And the number one thing factor you have there is to build trust. And in traumatized populations, trust is the number one factor to get us to the positive outcomes. And so I say that because it was interesting. I realized the same model that I used in that social work setting worked really well with distrusting financial consumers. And so I've used this I'll show you the tenets of this. I've used this in consulting with lenders, and I've shared it a lot in training and written articles on Housing Wire about this. But it's what I think is built on empathy and empowerment. And it has these 5 tenets, which work really well with Mortgage Coach. I actually, every time I'm training on this, I talk about Mortgage Coach through this, but you think about, safety, for instance, as when I first was referred to a loan officer from my real estate agent, I immediately searched for reviews. That's going to make me feel safe. And I didn't see very many reviews from that loan officer. Didn't make me feel very safe to think about working with them. And then, going through the total cost analysis is a perfect example of all of these in tandem, but giving you the sense of safety, transparency, choice, being collaborative with the consumer and the partners involved, and ultimately leading to an empowered consumer who feels that they can make smart decisions for themselves with you as their guide. That builds trust in a way that is lasting and it's immediate. I mean, I remember when I got my total cost analysis, as a reminder, I have built my career on financial literacy. Like I know how to navigate things like a loan estimate, but I still, when I was looking at my loan options, I felt totally overwhelmed and stressed out. It reminded me of, I went to Spain one time and got sick and went to the hospital, and I was fluent in Spanish when I got to Spain, but when I got to the hospital, I couldn't remember anything. And it was just because I was stressed out, and I felt that way when I was going through this process. And it made me have a lot of empathy for today's borrowers who don't have the kind of financial literacy education that I did. But getting the total cost analysis, I felt like I had just relaxed, I mean, I felt my whole body shift when I got the total cost analysis, because I was like, okay, I can clearly see my options. And I know I'm preaching to the choir on this, but just to go through, I think if you use this as a lens through which you deliver your customer experience, through which you deliver, your marketing, and you think about how your brand exists in the market today, building trust is going to help you capture the purchase market. I think layering the empathy with empowerment is the key there.
So I want to make a little micro lesson. We're going to go for 5 minutes on this, guys. So this is so important that you build all 5 of these principles into your consumer experience. And Kristin didn't make these up. This is a framework. It is what it is. And I think everybody who's looking at this can intuitively appreciate it as both a consumer, when you're a consumer and you've bought your own home, you've worked with realtors, you've done your own mortgage, you've done family members. So Kristin, stop sharing your screen right now. I want to just take this home, and I want to take it home as visually as I possibly can. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and then I want to ask everybody, this is a fee worksheet, and this is how most loan officers quote rates and fees. Does this provide safety? I guess it does from a transactional standpoint. So in all fairness, on the scale of 1 to 5, this provides a really high level of clarity and safety from a transactional perspective. But when you start to go, when consumers are getting a loan, they're not just getting a loan, they're buying a home. They're thinking about renting versus owning. They're thinking about moving up. They're thinking about, in today's market, like making an offer higher than what they were comfortable making. And when you start thinking about those bigger things beyond the transaction, this provides zero safety. It only provides safety around what does the transaction cost. It provides zero safety around the bigger picture. Is it provide transparency, scale, transactionally? But remember, people are like, what does this mean to me in 3 years? What does this mean to me in 5 years? It's pretty low in terms of the transactional. What are the other 3 real quick, Kristin?
So safety, transparency, choice, collaboration, and empowerment.
Okay, choice, no. Collaboration, there's no video. There's no, we edited this together. And what was the last one?
Collaboration and then empowerment.
And empowerment. Again, it's transactional. Now let's go to a mortgage coach total cost analysis where there's a video, there's a picture, there's collaboration, there is options. And here's the deal, guys. Options is not only a great way to deliver on choice and a great way to deliver on transparency, authorship is ownership. When the consumer is involved in authoring their strategy and they pick it, they're invested. So there's a science of selling that takes place. From a safety perspective, this has all the data. This is not just showing the transactional data. This is showing the transactional, and it's showing options. So you're giving people choices. So this literally, like the fee worksheet, really checks none of the boxes in terms of the decision that's being made, other than the transactional cost. And a mortgage coach total cost analysis, it checks all the boxes. So I just, again, I am Mr. Mortgage Coach. This is a mortgage coach call. And I know that most of the people in this community either have a mortgage coach, but I also know a lot of people in the community, they're not delivering it to every consumer. They don't have systems set up so that they're delivering this exceptional consumer experience every single time to every single client. And then my last rant on this, I hear all the times from loan officers where, oh, I didn't need to give them all that information. Well, if all you're trying to do is get the transaction, you're right. You don't need to do it every time. But if your goal is to provide them with the best advice experience, if your goal is to give them the maximum security that you could give them, the maximum transparency that you could give them, the maximum collaboration that you give them, well, then you have no choice. It's not a choice. Like, again, it's what game are you playing? Are you playing the loan officer game where my job is to get their social security number so that I can run an app and my job is to get them to believe me that I could do their loan? Sometimes you need mortgage coach, sometimes you don't. But if you're playing a bigger game, then it's a requirement. It's really that simple. It's pretty logical. So anyways, Kristin, we got about 10 minutes. So I want to make sure anything you want to make sure we get covered gets covered. And remember, guys, you're almost run out of time to ask questions. So ask away before we're out of time.
No, that was actually the end of my slides. I was going to mention that you can, let's see, you can check out our top performers at experience.com/top-performers, but also we'll be posting, or we have been posting, and we'll continue to post our interviews on social media. So follow us on LinkedIn if you don't already, and follow me, and I'll be sharing those as well. But that was it. But I do want to, just to piggyback on what you're saying, I am not Mr. Mortgage Coach, and I am so passionate about every consumer getting a TCA and going through that process, because I even have shared my TCA with friends when I was going through the process, and they were like, how do I get this? And how do I know if I can work with someone that gets this? I think it's so, even if, you feel like it's a really easy transaction, it makes such a huge difference for people feeling like they are safe and empowered going through the process. So.
Well, a couple things, I got a few things to share. I do want to, push everybody, go to KristinMesserli.com. She is an incredible speaker, hire her to speak at your next gig. Remember, she talked about this little research button up here. Click on her research. She's got some incredible content on her website, and she'll have that app report here sometime soon. So anyways, check it out. Anything else you want to call out on your website, Kristin?
Not on the website. The research is there available for everyone. And then otherwise, just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will be sharing fresh content there. All
right, cool. I do want to remind everybody that we're dedicated to your success. So remember this resource button on the Mortgage Coach website. And I want you to think of this. This is not just a resource button to learn how to use a piece of technology. This is a resource button for sales training. This is a resource button to learn how to be a professional advisor. We've got real world, what are the top strategies in the market today? How to win with rate shoppers, how to get more CPAs and financial planners, how to do a cost of waiting. Some of the best tactics and strategies are on our resource page. If you're brand new to Mortgage Coach, go to this on-demand training. It's like an online training wizard, available 24/7, 365, everything from beginners training to intermediate training to advanced training. And then, remember guys, we're here to do live training every single day of the week. I mean, we're on the Friday Mastermind right now. So, every Friday I lead a mastermind. Sometimes I'm not here and someone else takes my role. Every Tuesday, I also lead sales training, thought leadership, authors, speakers, leaders. But the other 3 days of the week, beginners training on Mondays, strategy training, like every type of strategy that you could ever use in a market today. Sign up for the day that you want to get it. And then every single Thursday, it's Q&A coaching. So it's a leader, you get to ask questions, they're teaching you how to do things that have to do with being an advisor. And an advisor is where you want to be in today's market. So let me take an audit of Facebook to see if we have any unanswered questions. I integrated a few of them into our talk. Kristin, any closing thoughts before we go into wrap up?
I don't think so. Not other than just, I loved being able to share and learn from our top performers and see how consistent they were with what our consumers have asked for, and I think I love the alignment with mortgage coach community. And I think, pairing experience.com with mortgage coach is an amazing way to create a safe and transparent and ultimately empowered consumer experience. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share and celebrate these individuals and companies with you.
Yeah, no, you were awesome. And that is a reminder, guys, we have an incredible integration with experience.com. So within the total cost analysis, if you're an experienced customer, the most recent 5-star review shows up in the bottom. And it's just that is possibly the most important place to put that review. It's when you're presenting options. It's when you're trying to convert that client into a lead, a prospect, and you're trying to convert them into a client for life. So make sure you have that integration turned on. And if you're with a company that doesn't have either mortgage coach or experience.com, let your leadership team, let your mortgage team know you want to get it. And you can reach out to me on social, PM me on any platform, or you can go through our website and learn more. And of course, go to experience.com to learn more. All right, Kristin. Well, I think we delivered a lot of good value, and I think it's time to wrap it up. Unless you have one more thing to share.
No, thank you so much. Great being here with you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. If you got value, give this a like, share it with your mortgage friends, and take care, everybody. Have an awesome weekend.
Thanks.
This is a wrap.